Hi students, it's Mrs. Lunsford again, here today with your final part of your project. So it's going to be the most exciting part. Okay, so we are on day 3, and our lesson for today is we're going to be mixing new colors from primaries. So what that means is the paintings that we've already done, we're going to add more to them. We started out with just a really simple lesson with paper, and we actually started with stones in water and did our splashing and splooshing, and then we started with 1 pebble, went to 5 pebbles, and started adding our rippling effects like in the water, like we saw. So something like that. Then we went to more splashing and splooshing. We started with our warm or hot colors on one side, and then we started with our cool colors over here on this side. And so our next step then was we started painting. And so I left off somewhere like this and told you, you get to keep painting, okay? So now your paintings are probably somewhere more along the lines of something like this. And if that's the case, that's terrific. Notice that there are some parts that are really nice and dark and have deep, rich colors, and then there are some places that are pretty faded. We're going to use those faded places to add more colors in. Take a look at that. Get an idea in your mind of what it looks like, and then we're going to start on the next part of the lesson. So in those parts where it's kind of a lot of white, we're going to mix our primary colors and create secondary colors with those colors. And then after that, you can try a little black too. See what that looks like, and then we'll have our final result. Okay, ready to get started? Me too. Let's go.
Okay, students, so what you're going to need next are the same paintbrushes, water and water container, and watercolors that we used last time. I really like it when you have 2 different sizes of paintbrushes. That's helpful because sometimes you want to paint large areas and sometimes you want to paint small areas. So try to have 2 different kinds of brushes if you can. And make sure that your paint palette is nice and clean, that the colors aren't all muddy and mixed together. We're going to mix the colors now, but I'm going to teach you how to do that without getting your paint palette all muddy and mixy with colors. Okay, I'm going to start out with my small brush first because I want to work in some of these areas where it's kind of white. And I'm going to make new colors in those areas. But instead of making a secondary color with the color that's already in the palette, like a purple, maybe I want to make a different kind of purple. So that's the really fun thing about mixing colors on your paper. So I'm going to pick a blank area, and this area is pretty blank, and I'm going to put down one of my primary colors first, and in this case I'm picking red. I'm going to put a little red on my paper. Now, it's a little bit deep and a little bit dark. I would actually like it to be a little bit less red. So let's rinse the brush out really well here. And I'm just going to put a little bit of water into that red. Okay. Now I'm keeping it contained in a certain area because I want to keep it out of the purple area right here. Sometimes you don't know exactly why you want colors to be in a certain area, but for whatever reason to you it just makes sense. That's what you need to do. And so now I want to make another color. I want to make a secondary color. What color am I making if I mix a little blue into my red here? Purple, exactly. So I'm going to start, and I'm going to put the blue into the edges and let it kind of all merge and mix together and see what happens. Now the color will slowly move out and will start to merge into the red, and it'll do it all by itself. If you want to help it along though, you can take your brush and just move some of that color, some of that blue that you layered on top of the red into the red. Okay, and it starts mixing together and doing these really kind of cool things. Okay, so then the next thing that you want to do is you can help it along even further if you like by putting more blue into the center where there's a lot more red. I'm going to drop that right in the center, and I'm going to kind of swirl it around. And you can see that you get a very deep, dark purple. Okay, so now I want to reverse the order, and I actually want to put blue down first. And this time I'm going to make sure that I use a lot of water. Okay, and here's my blue. And I'm swirling that again into a certain area on my painting where I want it to go, right there. And lots of water so I can spread that blue out. Now I actually have a different shade of purple, one that I pulled straight out of my palette and I'm putting onto my, or have put onto my paper. And now I'm putting a different shade of purple by mixing the colors. But notice each time I'm rinsing my brush out, I'm not dipping into the palette. I'm rinsing and then dipping. Okay, now I put down the blue first this time. And the color is fairly concentrated in one area and fairly weak in another. In other words, more water, less blue. And so now I'm going to add my red on top. Since I have blue down first and I'm putting the red in, I'll actually have to rinse my brush out sometimes when I dip in, just to make sure I don't contaminate my red paint. Okay, and now I've made a new red. Now this red is a little bit different even than the red I created, or a new purple, I'm sorry, a new purple. And it's a little different even than the one that is right here, because this one I created and I put down red first. Usually if you put down a color like red, which is a little bit lighter than the blue, that's going to show up a little bit differently. Okay, so here's this one, and that particular red one is a little bit lighter than the one that is within the circles here. Okay, and the reason for that, like I said, is because I put the red down first. Okay, put this red down first. So it is a little bit lighter here than it is here where I put down blue. Can everybody see that? Great.